You made it to my channel, Niche Gaming. Today we're going to talk about the International Loadstar 1700. This truck was an early 60s, early 70s medium-duty truck that had a variety of uses, with farming applications being the most common. Of course, this truck had the power, frame, and design to handle many other medium-duty applications, like fire engines, cranes, service cab facilities, industrial or commercial logistics, etc. Very much like the C70, you know, it certainly had those options and everything. The most common use was for farming applications. In SnowRunner, this truck is not found but bought in the truck store for around 39,000 game currency, and it's available early in the game. I don't believe there's any rank restrictions or anything like that. I think pretty much everyone's SnowRunner version at this point would include the year 1 and year 2 pass, but I'm not even sure this was required that. I think this truck was available right away, but again, not sure. For as long as I played SnowRunner, I've had the year 1, year 2 pass, and I believe I have the year 3 pass now, as well as in particular DLCs that I bought. And now, this is not a premium truck, it just comes available in the store, and it requires around 39,000, I think 39,400 game currency just to buy it. And of course, you do have to spend money on the upgrades. I would, of course. I always like to use the trucks at their best. So they put it in the Scout category of trucks, even though it is in actuality a medium-duty truck. When comparing this to the Chevrolet Kodiaq C70, it is essentially in the same class, both in real life and in this game. However, because they put the Kodiaq C70 in the heavy-duty category and this truck in the Scout category, both trucks serve different purposes in the game, even though they use the same max engine. As I mentioned earlier, the most frequent use for this truck in real life was hauling with a one-slot flatbed or sideboard frame, mostly for farming applications. But that doesn't mean it wasn't used for anything else. A slightly altered version, I believe it was called the 1702 Schoolmaster, was actually used as school buses. So school buses, fire engines, cranes, service cab facilities, industrial commercial logistics, all of the same stuff that C70 in real life. Except you would see the C70 more commonly for those other tasks, for industrial cargo or commercial cargo. Also with fire engine and cranes. C70 did it all. I mean, real life examples of when and how it was used. All that functionality was there. This was almost always for farming applications, but of course it was used as crane operator and fire engines and school buses, service cab facilities, industrial commercial logistics. It did do all of that. You did see certain frames and variations of this truck on the road, you know, carrying commercial cargo. Because both the C70 and Loadstar 1700 had such similar functionality in real life and similar functionality in SnowRunner, I put them in my medium-duty category. But there are advantages and disadvantages to the game putting the Loadstar 1700 in the Scout category, which we'll discuss later. First, I want to talk about the dimensions and design of this truck. Its length is 5.8 meters. The frame that they chose is more of the pickup chassis type one that is almost close to the most frequently used frame, although the real life frame would have had like a 1-slot or 2-slot cargo, definitely a 1-slot for sure. That's in SnowRunner term I'm using, 1-slot. A 1-slot cargo flatbed or most likely sideboard trailer. That was the most frequent use. But they did pretty close to it because they wanted to make it an overpowered Scout, which is what it is. So they used a frame that is length 5.8 meters. Width is 2.3 meters and the weight is 9,920 pounds. The fact that this uses the same engine as a C70 but weighs a lot less should tell you something about the power to weight ratio, which we'll discuss later. But this one weighs in almost a little under 5 tons. Body balance is excellent, plus as a Scout it gets autonomous winch. So this truck already has excellent body balance. I mean, it has such good body balance that I got carried away and I did a high range gearbox. And a truck like this, you really shouldn't do a high range gearbox. You really shouldn't. You should be using an off-road gearbox because you just go through the mud too much. But what I did is, because I did use the high range gearbox, I tried to like go around the mud a little bit, go left, right, as much as possible. Sometimes it was unavoidable and it would slow down, but because it didn't have the best mud tires available, because I went with the UOD 3, which I'll talk about later, which is most ideal for off-roading instead of mudding. But the weight is for the most common configuration in real life, of course, much lighter than the Kodiak C70, both in real life and in the game. Autonomous winch makes this truck almost unstoppable. And coupled with a Scout fuel carrier, it's independent, so it doesn't tip over. If it does, rare case, because the land is just so uneven, or you were driving like a maniac or something like that. Okay, it's got autonomous winch. It can pull you back up. Scout fuel carrier, because it's so powerful, it can pull the Scout fuel carrier like it's nothing. Even when it's fully loaded with fuel, awesome body balance. So it just makes it that super independent. Has all the fuel you need, has repair parts if you use the pickup chassis add-on, and it can't tip over, almost impossible to tip it over. If it does, got autonomous winch. That's one of those advantages of being a Scout. The Kodiak C70 doesn't get that. So same power, same truck, but used slightly for different uses, and that C70 is a lot more unstable in terms of body balance than this truck. Way more unstable. And it doesn't get autonomous winch, so if it tips over, the truck has to rescue it. Whereas with the Loadstar 7800, as long as there's something to winch to, you're okay. You don't need any of the truck to rescue this truck. It in fact serves as a great rescue truck itself. The Drivetrain features a 4x4 always-on all-wheel drive and always-on differential lock. There is no other option for this one. There's no, you can't turn all-wheel drive on, so it's always on. And differential lock is always on, which again makes the driving so much easier. It's one of the best drives in all of SnowRunner. Because of those advantages, all-wheel drive, always good, always helps with control of the car and a good drive and good traction and everything else. Differential lock, same thing, always on. You have to turn differential lock on with the C70, and in normal settings, unless you use my new game plus settings, the all-wheel drive is not even available for the C70 until you get to one of the Russian maps. So this truck, you don't have that issue. Always on diff lock, always on all-wheel drive. One of the best drives in all of SnowRunner, off-road and on-road, but not so great in the mud, of course. It does pretty much as well as all of the other heavy-duty trucks in the mud, if you use the right tires, UOD 2, but it could in some cases do better because of that power-to-weight ratio. As I mentioned before, I did use the high-range gearbox, and because of the power-to-weight ratio and excellent body balance of this truck, I got away with it. But off-road gearbox is still recommended. I still recommend that you don't do it my way. That mistake that I made, but I got away with it because the truck is so good. But I would still get an off-road gearbox because there's just too much mud, and you want to have the higher power, low plus option or low minus option where applicable for this truck when putting in low gears. The mud tires are similar to the heavy-duty class. Well, I'm sorry, they're actually not even mud tires. They're actually off-road tires. There are no mud tires available for this truck. The 41-inch off-road UOD 2 tires available have the same rating as all the UOD 2. 0.8, 3.0, 1.9. So 0.8 asphalt, 3.0 on regular dirt off-road, and 1.9 in the mud. And the chained UAD 3, all chains, 1.2, 3.0, 1.3. UOD 2 do significantly better in the mud, and the UAD 3 are required for icy regions, the all chains ones. In addition to giving you more control on roads. Same standard stuff that you have. The only difference between the C70 and this one in terms of tire size, I think the C70, Kodiak C70 had 43-inch tires, whereas this one has 41-inch. So slight difference there. Slightly smaller tires. But the fact that it's always on all-wheel drive, always on diff lock, and the C70 is not, this still actually performs much better in the mud and off-road. Not to mention, again, the power to weight ratio. Always a factor when you're using this car. Now, the steering, short turning radius, pretty much exactly as a C70, but the control is way better. There is no terrain feedback that makes the truck go left or right when you don't want it to. No, this truck is just too good. One of the best drives in the game, one of the best controls, one of the best body balances, all of the above. As I mentioned, I accidentally, or maybe it's just maybe the labeling of the trucks, or when it shows it as an excellent, and I look at the map runner ratings later for tires. I didn't even see that sheet before, but once I did, I saw that, you know, UOD2 was the right one to get, but I had already bought the UOD3, which are better for off-road and on-road, but suffer more in mud. They're 1.5 rating in mud instead of 1.9 that the UOD2 offers. So it's better to go with a UOD2, as you would with pretty much all of your heavy-duty trucks. Get that off-road UOD2 tires. And of course, once you get to Alaska or some of the other icy regions, and you're going to take this truck, or any of the hauling trucks, heavy-duty hauling trucks, you'd go with the all-change truck tires. Fuel consumption is reasonable because of power to weight ratio. The fact that it's always all-wheel drive on, always diff lock on, all of those add to fuel consumption, and you can't turn them off. So you can't save fuel by turning them off or whatever. But the fact that it's such a high power to weight ratio, that's why the consumption tops out at a level 17.7 liters per minute, which is significantly less than the C70. The biggest factor being power to weight ratio. But I want to add in that I did use the high range gearbox and the all-wheel, of course, always AW on diff lock are always on, but I use the high range gearbox instead of the off-road gearbox, and that will make a difference in consumption and efficiency, fuel efficiency. Consumption, of course, does depend always on damage status, terrain, gearbox, and load. This doesn't have really a tandem axle, but a rear axle or anything that's loading. The pickup chassis add-on doesn't add much weight. The service cab is a little heavier if you use that add-on, but you know, it's nothing that makes any significant difference in the total weight. And of course, since the truck itself weighs significantly less than C70, then again, that power to weight ratio is going to carry on its own weight like it's nothing, as well as a Scout fuel carrier or something like that. It just does an amazing job. The fuel tank is 130 liters standard, this main fuel tank. And then if you get the pickup chassis add-on, you get another 100 liters that it takes around, along with spare parts and some spare tires. That's what gives it that pickup look. So that's the way they pretty much designed this truck to be used as an overpowered Scout, as a muscle truck, an excellent example of American muscle. And that's the way they set this truck up to be used as an overpowered Scout with a pickup style look. In terms of engine power, as I mentioned, it has the same game engine, but the real life engine, the C70 had slightly better engine, not by a significant difference, but it was. This real life engine for the Loadstar 1700 was the International V345 V8, 5.7 liter, 197 horsepower, 400 pound-foot torque, max gross combination weight of 45,000 pounds. That's 22.5 tons. Now this was the highest version available, commercially available, much like I always compare the highest commercially available engines that I can find information on that this truck actually used. The C70 is going to be a little larger, as you can tell from my review there. It's a little larger, a little better, but it wasn't a significant difference, and they're both definitely in the medium duty category of trucks. The game engine is called SI-6V/2100. This is the second upgrade for the heavy-duty engines and the highest upgrade for this truck and the C70. This one boasts a 4,500 mass and 145,000 torque from map runner stats. Again, power to weight ratio, power to weight ratio, power to weight ratio. Huge factor in this truck, and it just helps this truck. It's just be so powerful, so overpowered as a Scout with this pickup chassis add-on. Amazing. Hauls loaded Scout flatbed trailers like they're nothing, like they're light as a feather. The Scout flatbed trailers as well, and then Scout fuel carriers. The most common uses for this truck, those two types of trailers: Scout fuel carrier and Scout flatbed trailer. It has only one heavy-duty external add-on, and it's the worst one. The LC loading crane is not suitable for this truck, but it is an option that you have. It only has 3 frame add-ons, which is highly limited. They definitely should have added more add-ons. I think the game should have given this truck like more heavy-duty, medium-duty external add-ons, since it does have the power. But maybe they did not want to make this truck too good, right? I mean, that was definitely a possibility. As well as this truck performs, giving it that many add-ons and that much utility and functionality, it would just make this truck too overpowered. But don't take that to mean that it's not useful as is, in spite of the fact that they didn't give those options. It is one of the best trucks in my fleet so far, and definitely one of my favorites. The 3 add-ons that it does have, I would say the service cab, as I mentioned, it's a service cab, the add-on, the frame add-on. It's a decent one. It could make it a decent rescue truck, but in Michigan, what I remember, there was so many service trailers lying around, and there were 1,500, as well as they had 8 spare tires and 1,500 spare parts. So the service cab only gives you 400 spare repair parts. So those 400 repair parts doesn't go that far. So using it as a pure rescue truck, 100% rescue truck, I don't think that makes that much sense. As a fuel rescuer, great, but as a repairer or that kind of rescue truck, I don't think this is the right truck for that, for the add-on it gives. So the service cab kind of limits you in terms of might as well go with a pickup chassis add-on, where you get some spare parts, mainly to fix itself, and you get 3 spare tires, and of course the 100 liters of extra fuel. The service cab doesn't even give you that, and it doesn't give you any spare tires. So that's one of the more terrible parts. And like I said, 400 repair parts is not that much. So the most suitable add-on for this truck is the pickup chassis add-on. The loading crane also makes this a lot more tipsy. It starts performing wheelies. I mean, the truck is just not suitable for the loading crane is not suitable for this truck. It makes it too unstable, and that's one of the best advantages of this truck, that it is stable. So why you want to waste one of the best advantages of the truck and use the LC loading crane? It's just not suitable. Don't do it. The truck isn't long enough and big enough to really support the loading crane properly in terms of balancing. It has balancing issues because of the size of the truck, the frame of the truck. And where it did use cranes in real life, obviously the frame was a little bit different than the version or configuration they're showing in this game. As I mentioned, the pickup chassis add-on works best. It gives you 100 extra fuel, 100 liters of extra fuel, gives you I think how many repair parts? 150 repair parts and 3 spare tires. Definitely the best. As I mentioned, they really want you to use this as a overpowered Scout, overpowered muscle pickup truck. Just use it like they meant it for you to use. Awesome truck. Now, one of the huge limitations of this truck, it's still better than other trucks that aren't able to take any trailers at all, like the Chevrolet Apache, like the Rezvani Hercule 6x6. Although those trucks are good in their own right and for their own reasons, they can attach trailers, whereas this truck does not have that restriction. So it can attach Scout trailers, like I said, Scout flatbed trailers, Scout fuel trailers, anything Scout related trailer it can attach. But the game does not allow this truck to attach to the normal heavy-duty add-on trailers. So a service trailer or one of those materials trailers, those big ones, or one of those maintenance trailers, or any of those trailers. You just can't attach them. Now you can still use it to winch. It has the power to pull those trailers, and in certain cases I did that, but that's not ideal. So that's a huge limitation. You can't. It certainly has the power to pull those trailers around, but you can't attach them like you would with a heavy-duty truck. Which means you can't pack the materials on the truck. You can't auto load with those trailers on, but you can with a Scout trailer. So attach a Scout trailer. You can load it with whatever you need to, and then take it wherever it needs to go, and complete those assignments and tasks. This could be used for scouting. And I did some scouting, obviously, in my playthrough in Michigan, but it is better as a hauler using a Scout flatbed trailer, or as a fuel supply rescue unit with a Scout fuel carrier attached. It can't haul those normal heavy-duty trailers, but it pulls the Scout trailers like they don't weigh anything at all. That being, the overpowered Scout. It can be used for hauling materials to areas that are too unstable or small for big trucks. So like the well assignment in Smithville Dam, that is not suitable for big trucks. It's just very hard. It's hard not to tip over. There's very limited room. You're always hitting the branches or the trees or something else with some of your big trucks. So taking a big hauler up that hill in some of those areas, just not suitable. Just attach the Scout flatbed trailer loaded with the vehicle spare parts, and boom, pack it up obviously, and take it to where it needs to go. Certain areas just have much smaller room, and of course they're highly uneven land. The big trucks will tip right over. Very hard not to make them tip over, and you're winching throughout. Whereas with this, you can easily handle it. Taking this to unstable areas, or areas that are just too small, don't have enough room for big trucks, too much forestry, too much whatever, just use this truck. It's such a godsend. It helps so much in your Michigan playthrough, and it gives you a huge break from those like if you're playing normal settings and you have to suffer through the Chevrolet CK1500 and the Scout 800. You finally get a refresher with this truck. Finally, you get this ridiculously overpowered Scout, which really belongs in a medium-duty class, but with some of the restrictions that they have, they turn into an overpowered Scout in this game. So just use this as you'll end up using it as a Scout, and you'll be much happier for it. Much happier for it. As I mentioned, the Scout fuel carriers, you can carry one of them, like attach one of them, and you could even carry another by winching it or however. It's so easy. So you're walking around with like 900 liters from the Scout fuel carrier and 230 liters from this truck itself. You can easily replenish other trucks, serve as a, just drive it around wherever you want, and it pulls it so easy. It's like it's a staple for this truck, the Scout fuel carrier. Very standard, and very standard usability functionality for this truck. As I said, Scout fuel carrier, so easy to haul, and it gives you so many benefits. So definitely a staple for this truck. Take it wherever, take it anywhere and everywhere. I obviously, when I'm using for certain Scout fuel carriers that you're given for, like, let's say the Lost Trailer assignment in Smithville Dam, there's that one, and you find like 2 or 3 Scout fuel carrier, I think 3 in Island Lake. So you get 3 of them there in Island Lake, and they all come with 900 liters already there, so they're found like that, and ideal for this truck. Plenty of fuel that you can use this truck to transport to wherever you need to. If it's not clear already, my verdict for this truck is, of course, buy it as soon as you can. As soon as you have the money, you'll need the $39K, and of course you will need to have money for upgrading, and especially if you use my settings to allow the new Game Plus settings that I use, you should be able to upgrade everything right away, provided you have the money. So it is a decent amount of money initially, probably around $80,000 you may need, or at least $60,000 to upgrade everything, but not that expensive, relatively speaking, to buy and fully upgrade. As soon as you have the money, though, it is well worth the investment. It is one of the best trucks you're going to have in your early Michigan fleet. Awesome truck. awesome, enjoyable. It's such an easy, good ride. I mean, you can do so much with this truck. It is versatile. It does have some of those restrictions because it's a Scout, but as I mentioned initially when I started this video, that has advantages and it has disadvantages. And I think the advantages, it's so good. This truck is so good that the disadvantages don't really hurt you that much. Even though, yeah, lots of limitations, sure, should have had more frame add-ons, should have been able to attach to the service trailers and other trailers, but that's okay. It's not like it's not useful. It is like one of the most useful trucks in my fleet and definitely one of my favorites. I had so much extra footage and certain assignments that really demonstrate the power of this piece of amazing American muscle, that I had to make a separate video on some of those assignments. So you get an idea of how to do some of those assignments, but it's just so easy. There's not much of a much challenge there, especially when you use this truck. So I wanted to demonstrate the power of this truck, all the things that he can do where you don't need to drag in some of your heavy duty haulers, because this truck will easily handle it. In certain cases where this truck is pretty much one of the only trucks that can handle that. Certain areas or certain parts of the map that are just hard to get to or hard to traverse on, especially for big trucks, because they're so uneven and hard to get through some of the forestry and all that stuff. I mean, with the power of this truck and the relatively small size compared to, let's say, the heavy duty haulers, it's just, I had to make this separate video. I was like, man, this is so amazing what this truck can do. Awesome. Check that out in my other video where I demonstrate the power of this truck and how easy those assignments were because I used the International Loadstar 1700. So that's my review for the Loadstar 1700. If you haven't already, hit that like button, subscribe if you like my content. Hey, I love doing these truck reviews. They're cool. Let me know what you think. Give me your comments and how you use the Loadstar 1700. Give me a like, share, subscribe, and thanks for watching.